everybody, to another episode of the TPT Podcast, the TPT Podcast, the TPT Podcast. Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the TPT Podcast. We're back again. As with me, as always, is my co-host, Zach. Zach, how's it going? How's the summer going? We're getting closer and closer to NFL season.
Oh, yeah, it's going great. I'm actually going to training camp this Friday. My dad is friends with I think he's the linebackers coach at this point.
Brandon Daly?
Yeah, Daly.
Yeah,
Brandon
Daly.
Daly. So, yep, we got VIP passes, so I'm about to enjoy that in a few days. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, you'll definitely have to try to get some content for us at training camp, because it's looked like they've had an absolute blast in training camp. And we're going to get into training camp to start this thing, because it just seems like there's an energy. There's it doesn't. Most teams, when you win the Super Bowl, you kind of come to training camp and it's kind of like, all right, we got to be out in the hot sun in St. Joe's and these, crappy dorms and this, that, and the other. But watching just the quarterbacks, the receivers, just watching the clips that the Chiefs have put out, and just some of the people that have went to training camp that I know, it's like, oh, it's just such a different feel. It's like they're so focused. They're ready for a three-peat. And what have you kind of looked at training camp, and what are some of your early takeaways? Because we're almost heading into preseason here in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, ever since Andy Reid got here as head coach, I mean, it seems like we're so locked in at training camp compared to other teams. Like there's always a few breakout candidates that come out of training camp, and just guys that look good all over. I mean, I've been keeping up with highlights and guys that are looking good. It's like half of our players are making notable plays at training camp, and it's really just a culture thing, and that's why we won 3 championships in the last 5 years, because we take every phase of the season so seriously, and we have the best leaders with Kelsey, Mahomes, and Chris Jones that you could possibly ask for in football. And so I've really been enjoying, seeing the rookies play, see guys that haven't had the opportunity yet, like Najee Johnson, who did get hurt, but guys like him that have shown great flashes in training camp, and I'm just super excited and super proud of how seriously we take training camp.
Yeah, it's like I said, during the summer, it's hard to get kind of caught up in, the NFL when you got other sports going on, NBA or whatever. And then all of a sudden, I keep watching training camp, and I'm just like, I'm more hyped than I was, at any point, 2019, 2020, whatever season it may be. It's like I'm so hyped because it looks like these guys are so serious about three-peating. Most of the time, again, you have defending champs, and even last year, it's like you come into training camp and there just wasn't this feel. There wasn't this positivity feel. I think Patrick Mahomes, too, watching Mahomes just absolutely just launch balls down the field. He's like, yes, I can use my strengths again. Because, how many times did we just see Mahomes in a game, maybe once a game, once every other game, actually throw a pass over 20, 30 yards to Justin Watson? Justin Watson was our deep bet last year. It was a screen pass to Rice that would take it 15 yards. And now all of a sudden he's got Rice, Hollywood Brown, and he's got Worthy to just play with. I mean, it's absolutely insane.
Yeah, and I never thought about it from his perspective. I mean, being one of the best, craziest throwers with the greatest arm strength, that would be frustrating if you have to play entire seasons without any sort of good deep threat where you can't even have fun. I mean, I know he still loves football and he had fun dumping it out to everyone, but that would feel like such a waste to him. And we still won 2 Super Bowls with no deep threats.
Right.
And that's ridiculous, because I mean, I would be fuming, honestly, if I just had to dink and dunk every single play like he did. Something we haven't seen since we had Watkins on the squad, which now is, with Watkins really healthy, was 2019. 2020, he was there, but he would really pop in and play a game and then leave with an injury. And honestly, if we had him all season, we would have been a lot better than we were. And we already were 14-2 or whatever. But this is so well balanced with talent. Every receiver that's in the game has a great skill set in some area. Like there's no weak link. We have the
Right.
two deep threats that are two of the five fastest wide receivers in the game, easily.
Hmm.
Then we have arguably the best run after the catch guy in the entire league at Rashee Rice. And then we have the greatest tight end of all time who is great after the catch, best route runner,
Right.
just like amazing IQ. There's so many directions we can go. Like there might be games where we don't throw it crazy downfield because that's not what the defense has given us. We might look
Right.
like 2022 dumping off to Juju, but that's fine because we've proven that we can win that way. And
Yeah.
so this is the most dynamic we have been since 2019 when we had that three-headed monster.
Yeah, that's what I think is exciting because like it was so hard to watch. Like it would almost be like if Steph Curry, hey, we're gonna have a more post structured offense where you know, we're gonna be the paint, we're gonna be more inside the 3 point line. That's not gonna work for his talent. It's like if you take that, you took that away from Mahomes last year. Now got these wins where again he's able to stretch the field. And that's when the run game comes in. And like you just said, we've proven the last 2 years we can win boring. We can win underneath. We can pass it for the 5-6 yards, death by 1,000 needles. And now Mahomes is like, oh, now you're giving me weapons where I can be fun again. We can have fun again. Like you said, you still have Kelsey, who's again going to be 1,000 yard receiver. He was almost 1,000 yard receiver last year, and he missed 2 games. But my thing is with the receivers, to real quick before we move on, is there's a lot of guys in this training camp where it's like you could have again, it's going to be a tough call to call that 6, maybe 7. I don't know if they'll keep 7, but they'll probably end up keeping 6, and then maybe some guys on the practice squad, but they will get stolen. Even last year, we had some guys that did very well. The receivers leaving my name, you went to the Panthers. Got picked up by the Panthers.
Smith Marset.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's the thing. Who is on the tail end? We talked about the top 3. Who is on the tail end that you're looking at? You got
Us.
Hardman. You Nico Ramirez, who did really well last year in camp, got hurt. You have Kadarius Toney, another speedster. There's so many guys who can catch all passes in training camp. Who are the 4 or 5 guys, even some more, 4 or 5 guys that you see? Because you have your top 3 that are going to make it. Who are the 3 guys, maybe 4 other guys you see making the roster?
Yeah, I think at most it's 4. It might be a little bit different with the new kickoff stuff, but I do think that running backs will take that spot. Like Reese Emmett, I've heard a lot of buzz about him actually making the team, which I was hoping for because it's just such a crazy story. But Meek Cole has a edge because of his understanding of the playbook. If one of our speedsters were to go down, he would be the best equipped to take their place, considering he knows the playbook, considering, I mean, in the Super Bowl, he had the 2 biggest plays of the game. So he's not a bum. He's not a great NFL wide receiver, but he can produce if put in the correct position. Other guys that are on the Sky Moore, I don't think is making the team because he doesn't have a skill set at all.
Wow.
He does not have a skill set. I mean, it sucks with him only being a 3rd-year, 2nd-round pick, but he's not the route runner we thought he would be. He's shown that he doesn't have the best hands, at least in training camp. He's been dropping passes. He just doesn't have a great feel for the wide receiver position. Like you see him a lot. He runs the routes right into the defender. He doesn't understand where to go in zone coverage. He just doesn't have it. And obviously he's not as dynamic for our special teams role as a guy like Kadarius Toney or McCole Hardman or even Nico Remigio, who's been taking lots of reps with the kick returns. So I see him missing out.
Yeah.
And then there's also Montrell Washington, who was actually a decent punt returner last year.
Kick return.
After we kind of took the keys away from Toney last year, he stepped in and did a lot of that. So I don't see him making the team because we have, like I said, Reese Emmett, Toney, Hardman. And so I'd say those are the 2 guys that miss out. I could see Remigio making it because, I mean, he's made plays both the last 2 training camps, and he's definitely a better wide receiver than Hardman and probably Washington. Or not Hardman, sorry. I meant Sky Moore.
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing with Sky Moore. I don't know if he would get cut just because he was a 2nd-round pick. Now, like you said, I do agree. Out of all the other guys, I think he can't really play special teams. And if he's going to be the fifth or sixth receiver, he's got to play special teams. Because I think you're going to have your top three receivers, and Worthy, Rice, and Brown. Then I think they're going to have Hardman at the fourth spot. Then you're probably going to have Kadarius Toney. I think he makes his team just because, again, he's able to play special teams. He's a gadget guy. I think he'll be at your fifth spot. And then I know last year they kept six for a while, then they had the seven. And then it comes down to, are you going to go Ross? Are you going to go
Forgot about Ross.
Yeah, so there's those three guys right there who Washington, he's the if you're going to keep a sixth receiver, you want him to play special teams. And he plays special teams. You're going to have him as a gunner. So it also depends what they do with corner, how many corners they keep. But it's going to be a tough decision at those last two spots. Watson, I know he kind of got hurt.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, so it's going to be tough.
This is going to be ridiculous.
Yeah,
we are going to lose at least two guys that are maybe not fan favorites, but like quality guys that have made plays in the last two Super Bowl runs.
Mm-hmm.
I think Sky Moore has to be a casualty.
I think they move on from Watson.
You think I could see that because I mean he was kind of our best try at having a deep threat the last couple of years, and now we have legitimate deep threats. But he also is more consistent.
I'm pretty sure he did lead the team in receiving during the playoffs or Super Bowl. Maybe it was one of the games. I could be wrong, but I know
for wide receivers, it was probably Rice, but he might have been second. Or right. MVS actually was decent. MVS had two huge catches against the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
But now he's on the Bills.
A lot of decisions to make.
Yeah.
A lot of decisions to make. Obviously, we're going to get more into our final cuts, our 53 prediction in a couple of weeks. But we're going to move on. Great topic here with the wide receivers. I can't wait to see how that pans out. But we're going to kind of go around the league here and get some of your takes as we kind of look at the AFC and we kind of see some of the teams shaping up. Who is a team that not a lot of the talking heads have on the radar, but you're like, this team should be on the radar and they're sneaking. I wouldn't be surprised if they got in the playoff and upset somebody.
Yeah. Now, this is an obvious one for me. It's Pittsburgh, which, I mean, Pittsburgh is always a good team. They're hard out because it probably is Mike Tomlin. People are very in or out on Mike Tomlin because even though he's always has good teams, he never really has great teams, at least since they went to the Super Bowl in 2010. But like having Russell Wilson or Justin Fields is an upgrade on Kenny Pickett. Because even Justin Fields, you know that they're not going to make him be like a pocket quarterback. So he'll play to what he's good at. They started to get a better O-line towards the end of the year last year, and they still have those two threats. Najee Harris starting to pick it back up. And so I look at them, even though they're in a super tough division, they always take games from the Ravens and Bengals, always.
Which is good for us.
Yeah, and they have a great defense, and TJ Watt, you know, he gets injured occasionally, but, I mean, he's healthy to start the year. We know he's going to be there. Minka Fitzpatrick should be back. That team is honestly going to be pretty good. And they're not going to be the flashiest team on offense, but they'll score enough where they can win 10, 11 games with that defense.
Yeah, I think they can be a 10-win team. Last year they won 9 games with kind of the quarterbacks they had to deal with. I mean, no matter if it's Fields or if it's Russell Wilson, that's an upgrade. They're upgraded there. So I think they can get to 9 to 10 wins, and which is good for us. If you're a Chiefs fan, you should be rooting for the Browns and you should be rooting for Pittsburgh because obviously you have the Bengals who are, you know, they're going to come back healthy. There's still some question marks there. I feel like there's a lot of just, you know, negativity going on around that team and guys. Not Jamar Chase hasn't showed up to training camp really. T. Higgins hasn't showed up. So I still think they're going to be a team that is going to be in the playoff hunt, be a playoff team. But again, that division, like you just said, Pittsburgh beat the Bengals with Joe Burrow last year. The Browns beat the Bengals last year with Joe Burrow. The Ravens lost to Pittsburgh. So it's like that division really beats up on each other.
Yeah.
We know the Ravens, again, they're such a dominant regular season team. So it's like we kind of want, you know, those teams to beat up on the Ravens and Bengals. So again, you don't have to sit there while by the time the Chiefs roll around or they play the Chiefs, you're not going to have to worry about a team that is just, fully healthy and a team that is, banged up because they had to go through a gauntlet with their own division. So, yeah, I absolutely agree. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers won, but another one is I think the Jags. The Jags were a team that was 9-3, 8-3, or something like that before they kind of had the Kirk injury, the Trevor Lawrence injury, the Ingram injury. So they're another team where I don't think the Texans are just going to have a cakewalk in their division. Same with the Colts. I think they kind of always float around 8 or 9 wins. Now you're getting your quarterback back. So I think those are some teams, and we always have trouble versus the Colts. So luckily, hopefully, we don't have to see them anytime this season. I don't know why we always have trouble with the Colts. But is there any other team or any other game on the calendar on the AFC side that you had just have circled? Like, if I could go to that game, I want to go to that game because this is going to be the AFC Championship preview.
I don't think the Bengals are making the AFC Championship, but that's the game I'm most looking forward to. Because finally we get to play the Bengals early in the season, and we know the Bengals are normally garbage early in the season. Joe Burrow's always coming back from some type of injury. Their offense takes a while to get going, and they don't have the same talent on defense that they have in other years. I mean, they lost to Wouzier, they lost DJ Reader. I mean, they're different, and I basically just want to murder them. So that is a perfect opportunity to stop, because even though we beat them in the AFC Championship and we've won 3 more Super Bowls than they have, there's still Bengals fans that like Burrowhead. I want to blow them out because there hasn't been a blowout in our series yet. So I just want to end those discussions week 2, get them while they're weak, and end that.
Yeah, like I said, as we talk about some of the contenders, and a lot of people are just hyping back on the Bengals bandwagon. I was listening to ESPN this morning, and you had a couple of guys say, they don't believe they're the biggest threat to Kansas City. And you had some of the other people saying, well, you're absolutely wrong. They are the biggest threat. I just don't feel like they have that same aura about them. I just don't think they're that same team. Well, like you said, on defense, obviously they have Hendrickson, who's currently still requesting a trade. And, I don't think they have that same approach as they did coming off of a Super Bowl and being like, we still have our guys. You got just a lot of turmoil, I feel like, on that team. Joe Burrow's changing his hair every other week. I don't know what that's about. But I still think it's the Ravens. Obviously, the Texans are on the rise, but I think it's still going to take them some time. But what about the Bills? As we kind of wrap it up here, what about the Buffalo Bills? What are your thoughts on the Bills?
Man, I'm not scared of the Bills at all. If they haven't gotten us yet, even though Josh Allen is still the second best quarterback, maybe the 5th best quarterback I've ever watched, in my opinion, just behind Mahomes, Brady, Peyton, and Rodgers. Like that, seriously, that's how good he is to me. But regardless, bums at receiver. You can't spin it any other way. I mean, you can say they drafted Keon Coleman 2nd round, but it's like he's still a rookie that doesn't get separation. And typically in the NFL, you kind of need to get separation. You can't just rely on your athleticism. They have Shakir, right? They have Shakir.
Matt Collins.
He's a good receiver, but that reminds me of us 2 years ago when we were like, man, we got so much depth. Like, look at all these guys we're fielding. And then, we don't really have guys. We had Juju, and that was pretty much it. And they also have MVS, who's not good. I love MVS. He's a playoff legend for the Chiefs. He's had so many big catches, but he's not good. And he's a year older. So there's that. Yeah. And their defense lost all their vets. They lost their safeties. They obviously were banged up at the end of the last year, but their defense now looks more like it did at the end of last year than it did 2 years ago. So I'm not really scared of Buffalo right now, and I think the Jets are going to win their division.
Yeah, I just think that, again, you have the Jets who beat them last year without Aaron Rodgers the first week of the season. You have the Dolphins who, again, they kind of fell off towards the end because they just were not healthy. I mean, neither were the Bills. But, again, let's not forget, the Bills had to win 7 straight games. It was either a win and you're in or a lose and you're out situation. And they had to win 7 consecutive games in a row. Like, that's crazy. So I'm not going to bank on the Bills really being a team that poses a threat in the AFC when you had to beat 5 teams that weren't playoff teams. in that 7-game stretch, or I should say 5 teams that weren't above 500. You only beat one team that was a playoff team. That was the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
Miami Dolphins. And again, I just don't see them as a threat. Like you said, I don't think Josh Allen, again, a guy who usually plays hero ball, and now he has a lesser offense. I don't know. I don't see the Bills. There's a chance they miss the playoffs. There's a chance they miss the playoffs. But yeah, again, I think that the teams to consider in the AFC, obviously have a team on the rise like the Texans. You have the Ravens, and I even think like the Browns, if they can get somewhat of Deshaun Watson what he used to be, and you get Nick Chubb back because they won 11 games last year. Obviously, they got smoked in the playoffs, but their defense is so good. You got Amari Cooper. They have a pretty good receiving core. You got Njoku. They're another team
Jerry Jeudy
out for in the AFC.
Yeah, the Browns should be a pretty decent wild card team. Pretty much like they were last year. Maybe definitely more dynamic in offense, having Chubb back, adding Jerry Jeudy. Watson will be he's at least more dynamic than Joe Flacco. Let's see if he can, get closer to his Houston self. They're definitely a team, but they're also a victim of being in that division that we've already talked about, where they could easily go 8-9 just because they lose division games. So
right. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. They usually play well versus the Bengals. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. What you guys like about some of the teams in the AFC, who you think the Chiefs are contend with. I know obviously a lot of our viewers are Chiefs fans, but be honest, what is a team you can see going toe-to-toe with the Kansas City Chiefs? We will be back later in the week on Friday. Zach, any last words you got for Kansas City Chiefs as we get close, really, really close to the Hall of Fame game and really, really close to preseason?
No, I'm gonna just make sure to get some video of training camp, that we can post on the TPT like Instagram and YouTube Shorts. So that's what I'm gonna be doing this Friday, and I'm excited to get out there and see,
we're definitely gonna.
homes.
Yes, definitely gonna get some content at training camp. Obviously, you're a local Kansas City guy. I'm not there, so wish I could go to training camp. I may be going to the Jacksonville Jaguars Chiefs preseason game on my birthday in Jacksonville.
Okay.
So we'll see about that. We'll probably get some content for that. We're going to try to get some guests before the season starts. We like to get some guests on here to get their perspective on what the Kansas City Chiefs are going to do and heading into training camp. Heading into preseason, some of the guys we're excited to see. We're going to get more into the preseason, some of the matchups, and some of the players we're looking forward to see. We'll see you guys next time on the TPT podcast.